going on, everybody? Welcome 30 to it. My name's TJ Wingard, back with another episode of Beyond the Tape. And today we're going to break down the biggest winners from day 3 of the NFL Scouting Combine. That's quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. Really, we're talking about running backs and wide receivers real quick. I'm going to go ahead and hit on some of the quarterbacks, just simple thoughts, nothing too crazy. Brady Cook had the highest RAS, good on him. Actually had a pretty solid 40 time. Tyler Shuck I also thought had a pretty solid RAS composition of all of his testing. So that was good to see. I think they're both pretty solid athletes. Shuck I think maybe a little underrated because you just see a big, long, lanky guy, and unless you've watched the tape, you may not just see that he's a pretty solid athlete. And then when it comes to throwing, I thought everyone looked pretty good. Everyone that no disrespect, but everyone that's going to go relatively, first 4 rounds, first 5 rounds or so. Everyone who, quote unquote, matters the most, I thought looked okay. Gabriel, you could see the arm limitation some, but overall pretty good accuracy. Got the ball out quick. He's got a nice release. Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart probably threw the ball the best. He's, Dart's, that's never been his issue throwing against air. It's just more about translating that Ole Miss offense to the NFL level. But ball placement was good. He spins it clean, strong arm, snappy release. So more of the same there from Dart. Ewers, those deep outs, man, he just throws those like it's nobody's business. But some of the throws, especially later on, as they're pushing down the field, I think you see some of the arm throw stuff where he leaves it a little short because he's leading with his arm, not pushing off with his legs. Tyler Shuck, I think, probably threw it the second best right behind Dart. Wavered a little bit towards the end, though, so you can't really say that definitively. I thought Riley Leonard also spun it pretty well, but like I said, most of the guys that you were there to see who were throwing, they looked okay. I don't know if they did anything to really raise their stock or lower it. If anything, I think like Tyler Shuck and a solid RES kind of helps his case to be QB3 to like the wider public. And I think Brady Cook, with a solid RES, maybe he becomes this interesting, day 3 flyer pick for some people that feels like he's kind of under the radar. So that's really all I have to say about the quarterbacks. Really nothing else to really report on just because they're throwing against air for the most part. And throwing to receivers that maybe they threw to them at the Senior Bowl. Maybe their teammates, more often than not, they're not, though. So it's too hard to glean anything major from that. Let's go ahead and talk about the athletic testing, though. And that's really what we're here for, is we get a special cameo from Bear. But we're going to start with the running backs. And I do apologize. These first few names, I'm having to pull this a little early. The splits are projected, which I don't love. But it's just because Math Bomb, Kent hasn't gotten the official numbers up on the website. And with testing kicking off at 1 o'clock today on Sunday when you're seeing this, I didn't want to put this out too late. Wanted to get this out as quick as possible. Wanted to keep the information relevant. So these first 5 guys, they're all projected splits. But still, nevertheless, if you watched it, these guys are all winners. Amari Hampton, coming into this week, we all knew he would be a winner. They just don't build him as big and as tough and as athletic and explosive as they do with Amari Hampton. Great size, great weight, the vertical, the broad, explosive, and you see that. I mean, it's a nightmare to deal with him coming downhill because, he's getting to top speed pretty quick. You see the 10-yard split. Again, that is projected, but a guy who can certainly hit the hole and hit it with great speed, 4.46 on the 40, but also gets that top speed, which becomes lumbersome to take down a 220-pounder when they hit full speed. So the shuttle's not great, but everything else from Amari and Hampton was top-notch. I am telling you, the Los Angeles Chargers at 22 have got to pull the trigger on this, man. This is like their running back right here. And if not them, honestly, I think the Vikings at 24 are liable to do it, not too far behind them. All right, let's go on to R.J. Harvey. Really the only negatives here are the height and weight. He's just not going to be a great third down back. Like, he's not going to be ever a great pass protector. I think he's an okay pass catcher, but even that's not really his calling card. But with that height weight, he's just never going to be like anything special. He's not going to be Rashad White, as a pass blocker. But when you look at everything else, it's like, yeah, sure, who cares? He's a part of my committee. And, that's what you're drafting him for. The 4th, 5th round, maybe 4th round now with these numbers. He's a flavor of back, right? Like, he's got this lower center of gravity because of his height. So he's got a little bit of a bowling ball feel to him, but also runs 4.47 and, 1.55 and the 10-yard split projected. And then also has explosive numbers in the vertical and the broad. I mean, that big play waiting to happen with also a low center of gravity. How do you not get excited about that? So again, the frame's not ideal, but he's a part of your committee and you're going to be happy about it. He's a guy that, like, if the Vikings don't take, Marion Hampton, Caleb Johnson early, I've seen some people comp Harvey to Aaron Jones. I see some flares of that. I also think, shout out to the Goat House. He has some great recs on landing spots here too. But I also think, Broncos and Chiefs, 2 teams that he mentioned, I think that makes a lot of sense as well. As good fits for R.J. Harvey. DJ Giddens, man, this is a guy that I can't help but love me some DJ Giddens. Moving up my board, man, and man, he put on a show yesterday. Like, I thought he was a solid athlete, but really I thought change of direction was probably his calling card. He's currently my RB12, just for reference. Like, I'm a pretty big DJ Giddens guy, and that's saying something in this class, RB12. But Giddens is just so fun to watch, man. The change of direction is what I thought we'd be talking about as his like main calling card. And then, 6 foot, 212, yeah, sign me up for that, like that. The 40 at 4.43, absolutely love to see that. The 10, the 20, also fantastic. Again, these are projected, but these are really, really good numbers for him. And then the vertical and broad, you're seeing a more explosive athlete than maybe I thought, and maybe a lot of other people thought coming into this one. He was like assuming the Steelers move on from Najee Harris, and I talked to some Cowboys fans and gotten them hyped up on DJ Giddens. That 5th round, like I felt like someone was going to get a steal here with DJ Giddens, but now, man, I mean, he could go as early as like back end of the top 100. Like, he could go somewhere in the late 90s, and it wouldn't shock me. But yeah, instead of talking 5th round, we're probably talking 4th round for DJ Giddens. But good, like my RB12, just a good football player. Hard not to like DJ Giddens. Taj Brooks, I know a lot of this is going to look okay, but he's one of the better pass protectors in this class. At 214 pounds, he's a little short, but I also think he kind of brings the oomph when needed to there as a pass protector. And then 4.52 in the 40, because he's also got like some good downhill ability. There's just a couple times on tape where it feels like he can anticipate someone's catching up to him, so he'll run out of bounds. But 4.52 was a better number than I thought. I was really kind of worried it'd be, low 4.5s into the 4.6s with Brooks. But at 214 pounds, I don't hate the speed. It's not like wow-inducing and like holy cow, but I think that's a solid mark for a guy who does a lot of other things really well. The vertical and broad, again, not spectacular, but they're solid numbers. And then the shuttle and 3-count, I really like that. You see that change of direction and that agility, the light feet there with Josh Brooks. So he kind of became this interesting day 3 running back for me. I had kind of thought, yeah, he's probably not the athlete that I would want to draft relatively early on day 3, but now, maybe the 4th round, certainly the 5th round, I think is certainly live for Taj Brooks. And the last name I want to talk about here was Quinshon Judkins. Hard not to get excited about this. Again, sorry that's blurry. I had to pull this off of X, so we'll keep this off the screen for the most part. But height, weight, fantastic. The 4.48, that's fantastic for his height and weight. The vertical, the broad. You see the explosiveness on tape. You see the long speed. He's a home run threat while also having one of the meanest stiff arms of anybody in this class. I don't think his lower leg drive is all that special, but you see power elsewhere in his game, and part of that is also with how much, how violent of a runner he is, how quick he can hit top speed, which the 10-yard split doesn't say as much, but 157 is not far off from being in that green either. So kind of tip for tat. I'm sure that number will look a little better at his pro day and his environment, I'm sure. But yeah, I thought it was a really solid testing day for Quinshon Judkins. All right, let's go on to True RAS, dot football. Definitely check out this website if you're looking for more of these scores and just looking to kind of figure out, what kind of goes into building out this RES model and who were really the top performers. Because I'm talking about everyone, and I'm not necessarily just grabbing the top RES scores. I'm just grabbing the guys that impressed me. Brayshaw Tutton, man, if not for, fumble issues and inconsistent vision, this guy would be a top 10 running back in this class. Like, home run speed, can make you miss in, short areas, power, good pass catching ability too. And then you look at his athletic profile: vertical, broad, fantastic. The 40, the 20, and the 10. These are not projected. These are true to a T. Just fantastic testing numbers. This shuttle's not as ideal. And then the height, weight, again, not spectacular. Probably not going to be your third down pass protector, but I think he catches the ball well. And then this is fantastic athletic testing numbers here for Brayshaw Tutton. Sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't see the vertical and the broad there. My fault. Bad hosting. But explosive athlete with good long speed. I think it's just going to take some time. And honestly, it's going to take the right RB coach to kind of figure out what all can be salvaged there. Like, because to me, vision's the thing. You either have it or you don't. So kind of hard to project to the next level, Tutton getting better vision. But maybe he cleans up the fumbles, and maybe he just gets that much better and a little bit better as a decision maker and being that much more decisive. And maybe that's all we need at the next level. All right, then we get to Rocket Sanders. I mean, this guy is just so fun to watch on film. Again, probably a day 3 running back. But, I mean, if you're looking for a 217-pounder who's going to run in the mid-4.4s, I mean, hard to ignore this guy. Also 6 foot. I think that frame gives him some potential to be a solid pass protector on third downs. Vertical's pretty good. You see some explosiveness. And, I mean, 10-yard split also showcases, yeah, he's big, but he can get to his top speed pretty quick. And, I mean, you saw that on the LSU game with the long home run in that gun. I mean, if you watched enough South Carolina this year, you saw a handful of big-time runs there from Rocket Sanders, a guy who, it was tough when he left Arkansas. That last year at Arkansas, I was kind of hoping, man, this could be an interesting kind of day 2 running back. Didn't have quite the season I thought he would, transfers, but I'm glad he did because South Carolina was ultimately the right landing spot for him. And I think this year helped him in his draft cause. I think it bumped him, his tape this year helped him move up boards. And then I think this 40 and the vertical and overall, combine testing helps his case as well. But again, still probably a day 3 running back, and he's a flavor of a back, but big, athletic, long speed guy. I mean, someone's going to take a shot on him. All right, then we get into the wide receivers. Matthew Golden. I know you look at the height and the weight and you're like, oh, well, that's poor per RAS here, but I don't think it's anything too alarming. He plays inside and out. He played a little bit more in the slot this year at Texas. At Houston, though, he was like an outside receiver 90+% of the time. So I'm totally comfortable with him playing inside and out. If anything, it's just added flexibility you get with him if you're the Green Bay Packers at 23, the Washington Commanders at 29. Like, you're getting that much more dynamic of a threat, someone you can move all around the field. But it's the 40, the 20, and the 10. And I mean, I have to eat crow in this. And I mean, ultimately, this makes me that much more impressed with the player. So I'm going to double check where I have him on my big board and how much more he's going to move up. But man, I even said as much just, I think a couple episodes ago where I was like, I think he's going to run somewhere in the mid 4.4s, maybe low 4.4s, could be as low as 4.48. But I'm not too worried about it because I think he's more sudden than quick. He's got great hands, good body control in the air. He does all these other things. So even if he runs 4.48, I'm not worried about it. And then he runs 4.29. I'm like, holy cow, what did I miss? And ultimately, I went back and I rewatched that Arizona State game, just one game of rewatching after I saw this number. But I was like, dude, you know what it is? Like, he's just got great running form. So he glides. He's got a little bit of that. But normally when you glide, you're 6'3", you're like DK Metcalf, right? And you're just gliding because you got these long strides, and it doesn't look like you're really trying, but you're an effortless, low 4.4 to 4.3 guy. He's 5'10", and the strides aren't that long. So I was like, what is it? And ultimately, you know what it is? I think he just has I don't even know if necessarily body control is the perfect way to describe it. He does have great body control in the air, but I think he's just got great, understanding of the gears he can shift into, like using it as a car. Like, I think this guy totally understands how quick he can go 0 to 100, 100 down to 80, and then 80 down to 20 as he hits that comeback route, or whatever. I think he's just in full control of his body and in which, how he sets up a defender with what speed he plays at. Another comparison, pitchers in baseball, they'll tell you, I can throw my fastball at a couple different, velos. If I want to throw it at my hardest, I can throw it there. But I might also take a couple miles an hour off and get a little bit more two-seam run on it this time, against this lefty, specifically if I'm a right-handed pitcher. Whatever. Not trying to get in the weeds of baseball here, but you'll have a couple different, gears, so to speak, of that same pitch, just so not everyone's setting 92 fastball, 92 fastball. That's what it's going to be. Having some flexibility and having some nuance there. And I almost wonder if Golden's almost just kind of the receiver version of that, where he's just got great control of what gear he's in. And therefore, when he throttles it all the way up, it doesn't look effortless because he got to 4th gear with ease. And then the 5th gear was nothing. And then now, next thing you know, we're at 6th gear and he's running a 4.29. So, I mean, this changes how you look at him, right? He goes from this, safe, kind of high floor route running guy that, sure, taking the mid to late first round, totally here for it. And now, I still have Burden and Egbuka ahead of him. But that's nothing against Golden. I still think he's fantastic. But now you get into a conversation where depending on what team you are, you could prefer Golden over Egbuka. You could prefer Golden over Luther Burden, right? If you want less yak ability, but you want the route running and sub 4.3 speed. We're going to talk about Burden here in just a moment. Thought he had a good day. It's just a different flavor receiver. So now I think it's live. He could go all the way up into the mid to high teens. So big day for Matthew Golden, and he didn't do anything after the 40, but the 40 was what made him his money, so good on him for calling it a day. Then we get to Eilek Ayumanner. A big physical wide receiver. You see the arm length, you see the hand size. Check those boxes. Everything you want to see out of someone who, a little over 6'1.5", 206 pounds is pretty solid mark. The 40, 4.44, that's a great time for him. The 10-yard, maybe 0.3 of a second away from being in the green here, so it's okay. He gets to his top speed relatively fast, and then the vertical and the broad. So you're talking about 6'1" and 6'8", 38.5-inch vertical. Sign me up for that. That's a jump ball 50-50 winner. You see that in the game against Colorado. You see that really throughout his tape. And then also the 4.44 speed. That was the one thing I just wanted to make sure. He looks like a guy who can get down the field, but he backed it up with that speed. And then also the broad, right? That's going to come into play when he's at the line of scrimmage trying to beat press coverage. Can this guy get off the line quick, and can he do it? Can he get off the line of scrimmage, and can he get off the line quick? That broad jump certainly backs up that he can. Here are some of the athletic comps. Braylon Edwards is actually kind of a fun name to see on there. Braylon, I think, was a little bit bigger, but solid athlete too. So yeah, big day for Eilek Ayumanner, especially after not going to the Senior Bowl. that was a spot for him to really kind of climb up the receiver rankings. Some other guys made themselves some money. Some other guys we'll talk about here just a little bit. But Ayumander, big time combine to kind of make you forget about not going to the Senior Bowl, if you know what I mean. Torrey Horton, another one of these size speed freaks, a little bit lighter at 196 pounds, but 6'2", and then 4.41 in the 40. So, and he's kind of got this Trey Harris thing about him where he moves better and he's got a little bit more wiggle than you would think for someone that big, and you focus on the long speed and you think about the contested catches and what he can do in the air. But he's got a little bit more shiftiness to him. He obviously had the injury this year, so a little hamper, didn't get as much, new tape under his belt in 2024-25. But I'm still intrigued by the prospect. Still liked what I saw from 23-24 tape. So yeah, late day 2. All of a sudden, this day 2 crop at receiver, a couple guys we're going to talk about, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Torrey Horton, Ilek Ayumander, Xavier Restrepo, who, didn't test but looked good in the gauntlet. Ty Felton we're going to talk about in a little bit. A ton of these guys. I'm just trying to do this, off the top of the dome here. But there's a ton of these guys that now day 2 feels like, it almost feels like the conversation where we had, last year, how many of these guys can go round 1? I'm almost more interested, is there a way we could set a day 2 record with some of these guys? Because I feel like that second, third round is a sweet spot for a ton of these dudes and a ton of the guys that are really good testers we're going to talk about, including Torrey Horton. But here's Jaden Higgins. Again, we're going to talk about some of the other guys here in just a moment. But Higgins, you love the size. It's 6'4", 214 pounds. That arm length is stellar. The hand size, pretty good. 44.47, that's more than enough. Took a second to get to that top end speed, 158 again, but you're not too far away from getting into the green with that. And again, with a bigger guy, honestly, I didn't really see 4.47 on his tape. Said by someone who really likes Jaden Higgins. I don't want to, sound like I'm a hater. He's, I think, receiver 6 for me right now, right behind Ayumander. Or receiver 7 then, right behind Ayumander. But liked him a ton. Day 2 guy, like I just said. One of my favorite players to see at the Senior Bowl. Talked to him, talked to Jalen Noel a ton. Talked to Noel more, but Higgins was still a good talk. But, I was kind of thinking 4.5 flat, 4.52, kind of in that ballpark. But 4.47 is a really good time. And then the vertical and the broad to go with it. So the vertical paired with his height, awesome. Love it for the 50-50 stuff. The broad jump, you love it for, projecting him as a guy who can beat press coverage at the next level. A lot of the same stuff we talked about with Torrey Horton, but Jaden Higgins, I think just a slightly better version of that type of wide receiver. Horton's probably a little bit more of the downfield threat, but Higgins on those in-breakers, that dagger, he works in the middle of the field really, really well. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there. Isaac Tesla. Now, I don't think he's a day 2 receiver, but he becomes this fascinating day 3 receiver because holy cow, flirting with that perfect 10.0 mark. Arm length leaves a little bit desired, but, over 31.5 is okay. You just wish he was the 32. 10 inch hands, though, is fantastic. 6'3", 214, 4'4", 157 in the 10-yard split. You see the 3 cone as well, sub 7 seconds. Because he went from he's 6'3", 214, and he runs fast. Big size speed freak, runs a limited route tree. He's just going to be a guy at the next level that, goes post and hitches. That's going to be his route tree. And, good vertical and good broad. So, explosive, can get off the line of scrimmage, can get down the field quick. Cool. He's this, go ball, almost only receiver, right? He's going to go out there to run, 10 nines a week. And then you get to the 3 cone and it's like, hold on, wait a minute. Is there something more here? Because I don't really see a whole lot of his route tree that makes you say, hey, sub 7 second 3 cone guy right here. But lo and behold, here it is at 6.85. So now I'm starting to wonder, oh man, okay, the goes post, the hitches. Can we add a dagger into that? Is that suddenness kind of playing in on that in-breaker? Can we add that out route to it at 10 yards? All of a sudden, is Isaac Tesla this guy that I can draft and stash for a year? And, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I have a good track record of developing these guys, or, whatever. There's plenty of other teams across the league that we think about good receiver play and good, history developing these guys. Could Isaac Tesla be their multiple ball clay? Because, all green everywhere here for Tesla. And, I'll be honest, he was a guy at the Senior Bowl that I kept looking at. Who's this guy number 1? Who's this guy number 1? Isaac Tesla. All right, I got him. Tesla. Tesla's 1. And then, by day 3, I was like, dude, man, he just keeps making plays. And it was just good 50-50 balls, solid enough routes in the one-on-ones, good long speed to get behind guys. It was just like, I didn't really know what to expect out of this guy. Kind of a later ad. He's pretty good. I'm going to go back and check it out. Again, limited route tree, but now you get this athletic testing, and I just wonder if there's more meat on the bone to be chewed off there. So, fifth round, this might be a guy I'm willing to pound the table for and see what I can get out of him in a year or two's time. Same thing here with Dante Thornton. I mean, Tennessee's offense is super gimmicky for receivers, right? Saw a little bit of a flash this year from Tillman. I'm a Tillman dynasty owner, so I'm hoping it's a little bit more than a flash in the pan, but we had like 2 solid weeks of Cedric Tillman, hoping for more next year. And then, haven't really seen it from Jalen Hyatt in Tennessee, in New York, so those guys don't really help out Deontay Thornton, but you know what does? 6'4", 205, 4.3 speed. He was talking he wanted to get in the 4.2, so shows that he's probably tested and gotten that number at least once, 4.29 or something thereabout. Fantastic 10-yard split. The vertical is a little weird, a little concerning, but I mean, also in his Tennessee tape, like, he's either by you or, he's kind of boxing you out. It's a tough offense, limited route tree, again, ghost post hitches. That's a lot of the work there. So yeah, you're either even with him and he's leaving you last second, or he's making like a comeback route 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and he's holding on through traffic, or he's got enough respect from you with his long speed that he's pretty open. So you don't see a whole lot of the 50-50 go up and get it, vertical type of stuff. Him in the air using his vertical, that is. But the broad is also fantastic. So again, multiple ball of clay. Tough offense to project the next level, but if a team wants to draft him and stash him for a year or two and say, hey, you're an explosive athlete, you have an abundance of long speed, we just need to work with this route tree, add 1 to 2 more things, and you're not even going to be our receiver 1. We're going to draft you to be our sacrificial X. I think it's just going to take the right team, the right amount of time, and the right plan in place for Thornton. But it's hard to argue against these athletic traits, and he's a guy that I got to watch. I'm mostly watching Tennessee for a couple other guys there on the offense. Watching Dylan Sampson this week, but I did it also to keep an eye on Thornton. There's something interesting there. He's a great athlete, but I just don't know about the receiver side of it all. Then we went to my boy Jalen Noel. Got to talk to him twice at the Senior Bowl, and just such a nice guy. Yes, the height and the weight's not ideal, but I still stand by it. He's an inside-outside flex. He's got this Tyler Lockett-esque thing about him, but honestly maybe a little bit more explosive in a short area than a Tyler Lockett. But 194 pounds, think you can play him outside. He's just going to not be on the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be your X. But a fantastic 40, 4.39, the 10, the 20, the vertical and the broad, among the best numbers of anybody there. Again, short area burst, the ability to get down the field, can make you miss in short areas, but also those option routes he talked to me about. He's been really working on that. He's even a nightmare with that, considering he can plant his foot and just be as explosive as any other receivers in this class. And if you haven't watched any Jalen Noel, I'd encourage you to go watch the Kansas game. If you need to get sold on Jalen Noel, go watch him against Kansas. The shuttle and the 3-cone, also stellar. That 3-cone gets me pumped up. Wish we could have gotten like Devil's 3-cone area 666, but sub 7 second 3-cone, sub 6.9 3-cone is, I think, a really good mark there. All the same, or sorry, sub 7 second 3-cone. I thought it got to 8.2. Oh well, memory not working for me, but still a sub 7 second 3-cone on top of the long speed. He takes snaps out of the backfield at Iowa State, like a really creative player, and because of his what I think is their yards after the catch potential at the next level, he can serve as this easy button in the offense while also being like, there's not many dudes who run a slot fade like a Jalen Noel in this class. Like, if good luck keeping up with him on that route. So comes this really interesting blend of easiness within an offense, but also big playability. And just continue to love me some Jalen Noel. Luther Burden will be a little bit quicker on this one. The height's not ideal, but the weight's a solid number. He's kind of got that Debo build, which also Debo traded to the Commanders. I find that to be a pretty good fit for the Commanders, so throw that in here. A little bit of trade analysis here midway through our day 3 winners and losers. But the 40 I thought was a really good time. 4.41, and I was literally just going back and watching the South Carolina game because I was telling y'all I was watching some more Nick Emanwari coming to the combine and got that slot fade touchdown later on in that contest. I think there's long speed. Like, I don't hear anybody talking about what he could be as a downfield threat. It's probably out of the slot, but let's not act like Malik Neighbors isn't a downfield weapon of the slot. Let's not act like Terry McLaurin can't be a downfield threat out of the slot. But nobody's talking about it with Burden. But I think that's going to change now with the 4.41 time. So again, kind of like what we were just talking about with Noel, but even more so really with Burden, because the easy stuff's easy. Like the yards after the catch, throw this guy a bubble, use him as a jet sweep guy, get him in motion, get him the ball in space, let him be a yak demon, because the contact balance, the short area burst, all that's there for Luther Burden. An absolute yak monster. So he's an easy button in offense, but also I think 4.41 speed, he could be a downfield threat. So I think that rhetoric's going to start to change for Burden. I think that 40 time was a big one for him to hit. Jalen Knowles, I thought 4.42 was a really good time for someone who is just, and I thought he'd probably run somewhere in the 4.4s, but I was thinking again, maybe 4.5 to 4.8 territory, but just such a fluid and smooth player that you're like, all right, I think he moves well. I'm pretty sure he's got some good speed, but I need to see it first. I need to see the official numbers first. I'm not saying he's Amari Cooper, but he almost kind of has this Amari Cooper-esque thing about him where you don't even think about his speed. It's just like he's such a smooth and it feels like such a technical receiver that you focus on the little nuances and, the head fakes, the shoulder fakes, and the route running and, all that sort of stuff, and how he's setting up, showing a guy this and setting it up later. I feel like he's got it all from that standpoint. So then you throw on low 4.4 speed, and it's like, okay, yeah, how high can he go? Late second round, into the third. Big fan of Jalen Royals here, and I think third round. I'm pretty excited about that. And also shout out to Alex from Hail Mary Sports. He was talking about it, and he got me to go back and watch the 2023 tape. I'd be interested to see what this 40 compares to like his on-field, speed tracking in 2023. Because I agree with Alex, 2023 he's even more explosive than 24. Again, 24 is smooth, under control, and pretty polished from a receiver standpoint in his route running. But 2023, it's like all that and a little bit more to it, like a little bit more behind that first step and a little bit more long speed. So I do kind of wonder where the miles per hour, in-game speed is compared to that 4.4 time that he ran yesterday. Because if you're telling me he's still working back to 100% and he can technically run better than 4.42, then start pounding on the table for Jalen Royals, folks. Ty Felton, another one of these guys that really stood out at the Senior Bowl, just as this guy, 6'1", 193. I hate to say this. You don't want a helmet scout, but there's a little Stephon Diggs to him. He's kind of got that build. And at the Senior Bowl, it was just like, whoa, the way he could break off a route, like how sudden he is. Working the sideline, the footwork there, and the late hands. Oh man, yeah. I hate to say it because it sounds lazy, but there's a little bit of a poor man Stephon Diggs in there. And then he goes out there and runs 4.37, which Diggs didn't run in the 4.3. So he's already kind of got that leg up on Stephon. And then the 10 and 20 are fantastic. You love the vertical and the broad. So it's like, whoa, this really shifty route runner who was catching my eye up and down, practices at the Senior Bowl. Now he's a super explosive athlete with good long speed, really good long speed. Okay, third round's now, I think, on the table. Felton to me was kind of like a fourth round guy, probably. Fourth, fifth. But dude, now you get to the third round, it's like, dude, who could use a separator? Like, if you're a team that's just looking for a guy who, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of a team offhand, but I don't know. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you're just looking for one more guy to add in that mix, Mike Evans wins the way he does, size, speed freak. Jalen McMillan has some separation skills, but, he's kind of a jack of all trades. And then we just want to get one guy who in man coverage spots we can, Mike Evans is probably going to be that guy. But, again, it's not a perfect comp, but if you're just looking for a guy that one-on-ones can take a little bit of pressure off your other receiver who's maybe that big downfield threat, field stretcher, but this is your man coverage beater because of how sudden he is and how good he is in one-on-one coverage. Yeah, I could totally see it. So, yeah, I think third round's now live for Ty Felton. Really impressed with him yesterday. Another one of these guys that look good on the on-field drills as well. Jalen Lane, yeah, he's a little bit smaller, in sub-32-inch arms and, sub-10-inch hands. But honestly, the hand size and the arm length isn't too big. It's more, the 5'9" of it all. He's probably going to be a slot receiver at the next level. But honestly, I'm okay with that. Also, he could still be a Y. You could still play him on the outside. He's just going to have to be someone you play off the line of scrimmage at 191 pounds. But even that mark, it could be way worse. But then you get 4.34 speed. Okay, sign me up for that. 1.5, 10-yard split, so we can get there quick. Vertical, broad, fantastic. Shuttle, and then 6.75, 3-cone. Sign me up. So I'm seeing a guy who can get down the field. He can do it quick. He's explosive at the line of scrimmage. And sub-7-second 3-cone, that change of direction. Sign me up for it. So, yeah, I think this is going to be an explosive, slot receiver for some team. Get this guy running option routes, get this guy running slot fades, and have some fun, man. Like, I really impressed with Jalen Lane, another Senior Bowl guy. And I thought his Senior Bowl wasn't quite as good as some of the other dudes we talked about with Noel and Higgins and even like a Felton, but it was pretty good. It was, another kind of like Tesla where it's like, all right, there he is again. Here I am noticing him. Here I am writing a little mark next to his name because it's just kind of how I like to do something. It just helps me subconsciously keep track of who's subconsciously catching my eye, right? Like it's almost like the helmet stickers. You put a little dot next to their name, and every time they kind of catch you off guard, and you're like, who was that? It's worth noting. And there's a handful of those little knots, little marks right next to Jalen Lane's roster spot that I got at the Senior Bowl. So, yeah, really fun player. Thought it was a pretty good week at Mobile, and then great athletic testing. So another one of these guys that, day 3, if you're looking for a slot, you're looking for a field stretcher, he's a really fun option to throw into that mix. Then we get Chimere DK, kind of another one of these guys, but a little bit bigger, 6 foot, 195. Think you can play him on the outside, 32-inch arm length. Starting to sound like Mel Kiper with the cadence here. But 4.34 speed is fantastic. So again, if you want to play him on the outside, get him off press coverage. He's a field stretcher. You could also play him in the slot fade stuff. That's all there. explosive with the vertical and the broad, so a lot of the same stuff we're talking about here, and then sub 7-second 3-cone. So, and I think you definitely see that on his tape. He's a really sharp route runner, but also has the speed to get down the field. He just kind of has that Arian Smith quality where like the drops killed him this year. And he already led, he was Florida's leading receiver, if memory serves, but him and Arian Smith both led their team in receiving yards. And you can't help but think, like, if not for those drops, how many yards do you have? How many touchdowns do you have this year? The statistical profile would have been way different. And I feel like the conversation around, like, most of the draft media maybe would have been a little different because of that. But Jamir DK, yeah, inside-out flexibility. I like him a little bit more on the inside because of that 3-cone number and what you can do with him as a slot fade guy. But again, it's hard to do this because I'm thinking about 32 teams who do it in 32 different ways, and I have my own idea of what I would do personally. So I think he's got some good like 4th round value for a team, inside out flex, but I would personally play him in the slot on those option routes, those slot fades, things like that. And then one more guy you could throw in that mix. One of the lower RES scores you'll see here, but Kyle Williams was also fantastic on the on-field drills, so I did want to throw that out. He's also a yards after the catch machine, which, Mobile wasn't a great showcase for that because you're not really tackling until you get to the game. And then, the combine, no one's tackling you, so, hard to showcase that ability. Shorter arms, smaller hands, not great. Yes, he's a slot only for sure, especially at 190 pounds. The vertical and the broad aren't great. I thought those numbers would be better, especially, the vertical. And really, honestly, the broad is such a low number that you kind of like, that's a little interesting. But maybe not the most explosive guy, but I don't know. When you watch him on tape, he sure makes a lot of guys miss. He's sure got a lot of, wiggle room in a short area. So I'm still a big Kyle Williams fan. And again, one of these guys that, running the gauntlet, doing the on-field drills, just looked better than maybe some of this athletic testing would suggest. But in the 4.4 speed, 1.55 on the 10-yard, that's fantastic. Wish he had the 3-cone because that would have helped me a little bit more because I look at the broad and I'm like, not super explosive, but yeah, I watch your film and you make all these dudes miss in space and you have some short area, ability to separate. What's up with the broad? So I wish the 3-cone was in there just so we could see. But that is, I don't normally do these in order, but that is why I put Kyle Williams towards one of the later names because, I was looking for a 20th name and I thought he had a good day yesterday. I'm still impressed with him. He's my receiver 15, I think, right now. Receiver 16. He's one of those two for me. But, yeah, ultimately, when you get in here, it's not as flashy when you're not looking at the 40 time. But, guys, that is going to do it for my Day 3 winners and, takeaways from the third day of the NFL Scouting Combine. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section or want to reply back to this post if you're watching on X. Let me hear your thoughts. Who are some of the other big winners I should have included in this? And maybe who are some of the losers? Some of the guys you think maybe have hurt their stock. I'd love to hear those thoughts. As well. You can also hit me up on X via my DMs if you want to talk any more ball, talk any more prospects. Would love to do that. You can hit me up at TJ Wingert, spelled Wengert. But guys, that is going to do it for today. 20 Day 3 winners from the NFL Scouting Combine. And until next time, we are signing off.